Deliberations are happening right now in the Feeding Our Future trial, and for the second time in as many days, a juror was sent home. This time, the juror didn't get bags of money at their door, but they did know about the bags of money going to another juror's house, and that was enough to let them go. It somehow makes perfect sense for this case to come to this. Jury bribes, defendants hastily taken into custody last night after closing arguments to try and stop jury tampering in its tracks as the trial desperately tries to come to a close. Lou Raguse has covered the Feeding Our Future pandemic fraud scheme for well over a year. He's here now on Verdict Watch. Lou, your take on this case at this point coming to jury bribes. What did you think of when you first heard about it?
Well, I've heard of some crazy things happening in trials that I've covered, but this by far takes the cake. Just to give you some context, bribing a juror, that's something that happens in mob movies, but doesn't even happen in actual mob trials in real life. It's that astonishing. And another piece of context I think people should understand is I hear a lot of people, joking about it because it's ironic that a case that involves so many accusations of just incredibly mind-numbing fraud involving millions and millions of dollars includes an equally astonishing bribe attempt. I get it, but one thing to keep in mind is Judge Brazel told us that this juror was absolutely terrified when this happened because after that she knows that they know where she lives, they know how to reach her, she doesn't know what might happen to her. So the juror herself was terrified when she received the bribe. The other jurors who don't know about the bribe, we hope, were afraid, alarmed at least, when they were told that all of a sudden they had to be sequestered for the rest of their deliberations.
And so we lost another juror today. Walk me through that. They weren't bribed, correct? And how many jurors does that even leave us with?
Well, the way it happened was the jurors needed to call their families to tell them that they'd be sequestered. And this juror called home and their family, they said, we're going to be sequestered. The first thing the family member said in response was, is it because of the bribe? So the family member informed the juror about the existence of a bribe, and that enough is for Judge Brazel to dismiss the juror, because knowing about the bribe, it's so damning to the defendants. If they're going to bribe a juror for a not guilty verdict, it seems like they're guilty. So they can't have any juror who knows about the bribe. There are 4 alternate jurors left, and there are 12 jurors deliberating. The alternate jurors were told you can't hear anything about the case because you might need to get called back in. That's what happened to one juror this morning. He came back in, he was put on the witness stand. He said, I haven't heard anything about any of this, and he was allowed to join them and start deliberating. Now they hope they don't have to go to any more alternate jurors, but there are 4 more alternates needed if they are needed to be called in.
And important to note here, just last question, this isn't the only trial that will be involved in the Feeding Our Future case, right? What does this mean for the whole case going forward, that this has already happened in the first public trial?
There are 7 defendants on trial right now. There are 70 total defendants charged. Some of them have already pled guilty. So there are other trials on the horizon. One thing to keep in mind is that if all 7 of these defendants are convicted of all charges, I think it'd be a lot more likely that more defendants would start pleading guilty. So what happens in this trial is very important, and what happens in future trials. But we are in week 7 right now, and for if any reason that there's a mistrial, they would have to restart this process with these 7 defendants, and it would take a whole 7 more weeks out of all these people's lives to retry this case. So that's what they're hoping they don't have to do.
All right, thanks for the latest, Lou. We'll keep you down there until we get that verdict. Appreciate it.